I guess how it started is I was trying to come up with a lot of serious and kind of poetic sounding titles for my movies. I always wanted like long titles that I guess sounded like something you would, like title a poem, and that way no other films had my titles. But I remember in 2003 or 4, I was trying to put together like a 2-hour collection of my short films. I hadn't had any completed features at that point. I'd attempted to complete features, but I had like 5 in post-production. So I had about 2 hours worth of short films, and ranging from poetic to exploitative to comedy to drama. And I was trying to think of a title, and I kept wanting something like the Lost High School Massacre or the Last High School Massacre. I think I wanted the Lost High School Massacre because the idea was I always thought that the reason I didn't go psycho in school is because I had my creativity, because I was bullied and beat up severely, in some cases really bad, where I still suffer like injuries and stuff to this day from it. So I really kind of was at a point when I really wanted to just kind of let loose on my school and kill somebody, but I didn't have guns. I only had knives, and it was too personal, and then I realized I'm not a harmful person. But I think a big part of that was having movies as my getting to live vicariously through movies and stuff. I always thought really kind of is the other thing that saved me from kind of going completely psychotic from all the bullying I went through. So I thought the idea of the Lost High School Massacre was kind of like the reason there was never a high school massacre, or it was lost, was because I had this outlet, and that's what I'm showing you. But I remember when I told my dad, he just kept every title that I had, was similar to that, and he kind of laughed and kept thinking that it sounded too much like Bowling for Columbine, and so finally, I'd tried so hard my whole life ever since I was like 7 when I started directing to be taken seriously as a filmmaker, and at that point, I finally was like, fuck it, why don't I title it something totally not me, something really ridiculous, and see if it gets attention, because he's not taking me seriously with any of these serious titles that mean a lot to me. So I decided to call it Big Boobs, Blonde Babes, Bad Blood, because I don't give a shit about big boobs or blonde babes, which was always the sex symbol in movies, and I wasn't really about blood. I was about just stories that maybe had violent characters, but it was all about, psychological issues or this or that. So I basically titled it everything that I did not stand for in movies, or in my movies at least. And that instantly got a shitload of attention when I started getting press releases and stuff for it. So I kind of thought, wow, that actually worked. Now there was a downside, because, you had a lot of people who were expecting like a trauma type movie or an exploitation movie, but for the most part, it seemed like it worked, and then people would end up, reviewing it and saying stuff like, "Well, I saw past the exploitative title and saw all this other stuff." Versus some people were more like, "I thought it was going to be exploitation. This is stupid," but I did see the attention it got. So what that led to was that kind of led the path to a lot of the easy press that I got and a lot of the problems that I got. Because what happened after that is then I attempted to make another feature, which I finished because we shot it all in one night with no money, and I had it done within a week. The editing was real simple, and I called it Amateur Porn Star Killer, which again definitely sounded like an exploitative title, but it was really about a 13-year-old girl losing her virginity to a rapist and serial killer, and then losing her life, and all done in pretty much real time, and all done in a way like you don't see rape normally done in a film, which was all by manipulation and not like by force or using a weapon or all the typical stuff. So it was actually, I think, a really serious film, but it was explicit, fairly explicit, and it had a really exploitative title. But that got me so much attention because the internet, that was 2004 now, and the internet was still pretty new for people. YouTube hadn't really taken off, definitely not for YouTube stars or anything like that. And nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but not that many people were titling films with stuff like that. So I got so much attention that even people like MTV reviewed the film, and it kind of went everywhere. But at the same time, that's when a lot of shit really started, was because the tagline was also this 13-year-old girl will be humiliated, raped, murdered, and you will watch. And that, I think, was actually the first thing that got me in a lot of trouble, because we ended up premiering the movie at the Laemmle Sunset 5, and they had played movies. I mean, I had seen movies like Baise Moi. I saw that at the New Art, which had way more explicit stuff than my film, and New Art and Laemmle were known for showing like the same type of movies and stuff. But for some reason, I got really lucky with the theaters. I was able to put posters. I just had a midnight showing, and usually you get to put up like one poster at the theater that you're having the showing at, because Laemmle, it's a chain of like, I don't know, like a dozen theaters, and they actually let me put up posters at any theater that I wanted. So I got to promote the whole Laemmle chain. I got to promote my films. And then at the theater that it was playing at the Sunset, they let me put up like 8 displays. So I pretty much was in your face with this movie, which had that tagline. And what happened is this Academy Award nominated actress, Leslie Ann Warren, which I found funny because she had done some sexually provocative films like Secretary and Color of Night, which was actually like banned or something when that came out because it got an NC-17 rating, even though it had Bruce Willis in it. And I remember that movie having issues. And she was a star of films like that, but she actually could not stand the idea of my film, even though she hadn't seen it, wasn't out yet. And she complained, and because she was a known actress, that's my first experience is because of her. All the theaters took down my posters. The employees started ripping them up. Even the employees before that were supposedly offended that they were ripping up the posters, but then we found out that they were actually also stealing them, and that we had no money to replace them because that was all my money was going towards the the promotion mainly. And so we had to deal with the employees playing that shit. We had to deal with Leslie Ann Warren's bullshit, and then on top of that, for some reason, the LA Weekly article or the ad didn't have the showtime or anything else. And at the same time, MySpace was really popular, and I had finally got up to like 50,000 or 100,000 friends. And then I was getting in trouble when I was promoting it on MySpace because people thought that I was like trying to solicit like minors, or something. I don't know. I was getting like parents getting mad at me, saying I was contacting their kids when I was sending out, flyers for the movie. My MySpace ended up getting deleted without warning, and it had taken like 2 years to get to that point. So that was a lot of shit just kind of snowballed. I had all the theaters banning me, the employees, the Leslie Ann Warren, the MySpace, not getting our time, added for some reason in the LA Weekly article. So that's when everything kind of all at once went to shit, and that was my first big experience with getting banned, I guess, is if you want to call that getting banned. But then the movie came out, and it was actually kind of fine because we got into FYE, we got into Fry's, we got into all kinds of stores. But this is back when we fortunately still had movie stores. And you could go into any store in LA and find a copy of Amateur Porn Star Killer, which was crazy for a movie we shot in 3 hours with $45. And then what happened is we went ahead and made a sequel, and we got a little bit more graphic. It got more explicit with the sequel, but I still wasn't having an issue. It actually, the first one did so well that E1, the distributor, really helped promote the second one and really helped with the MTV quotes and all the other stuff that we had. So then the sequel came out and was in all the stores as well. And then when we did the third one, the only issue what started happening after that is they became extremely known for being ripped off online. Like these movies, because of the title, this is where the title kind of hurt, is because anybody who's ripping off movies or anybody who's searching for amateur porn, like my films were coming up. And because the title was so provocative, all these people, they're ripping off movies, they're going on these sites, they see a title like that, it doesn't matter that they've never heard of it, they're instantly intrigued. That's what kind of happened. So my movies were passing up like, I don't know, whatever new Fast and Furious movie was online. I mean, they were ranking above them in all these rip-off sites. And what happened with the second one is we actually decided to use real penetration. And we even showed real penetration to a corpse, not a real corpse, but real penetration to somebody playing a corpse. But all that starts happening towards the middle or end of the film. And what pissed me off is people who are ripping off the movie, and people rip off movies, they don't really care about film. They rip off a film, they watch it for 5 minutes, and then they talk shit about it, and they go to the next film until something grabs them. So then what was happening is my films were getting really, ripped off a lot. and these people, you know, who were commenting, I mean, some people thought it was real, which was great, because the whole point was to make it feel real. But you had so many people, you know, especially with this, Tarantino said something recently about how he still doesn't watch Netflix and he still rents from video stores because of the whole, he thinks it's all bullshit. Basically, when we had video stores, you know, you might rent 3 movies and not get around to the 3rd movie, but you really thought about what you were picking out. So you were paying for it. So you most likely would watch all 3 movies. Even if you didn't get to the 3rd one, you at least would try, and you probably rent it again late, you know, next time. And you always cared about what you were watching. You always put thought into what you were going to watch. And even if the movie was bad, you would get through it. And lots of times, and I remember this myself, for instance, Pi, the movie Pi by Darren Aronofsky, that film I tried to watch like 5 or 6 times, and I kept renting it, and I was told it was good. I wanted to watch it, but it was so slow the first half an hour. But when I finally got through it, especially because I'd paid to rent it for like the 5th time, it was actually like an amazing movie. And that came out during video stores. I think if that movie came out today, or movies like that come out today, Aronofsky would not have been considered a genius. He would not have gone on to make, you know, Black Swan and Mother and all these movies. I think if people saw that movie today, they would rip it off online, they would watch 5 minutes and go, this is fucking horseshit and boring as shit, and then they would not get through it. I think the advantage we had that we still have, luckily, with movie theaters, as long as they're around, but that we had with video stores, is that you put in that effort and that money to buy that movie, you watch it, and you get through it. And, you know, you don't go to the video store and write on the cover, 1 star, this movie sucks. Another major problem we have with movies getting shit-talked, independent films, and not to mention independent films getting ripped off, is you go on to Amazon Prime or Netflix. I think Netflix changed something a little bit, so it's not as bad, but you go on to most of these sites where you can download either for pay or illegally download, and the star rating is right there. The first thing you see is how much people hated something, and usually people go online to shit talk, so it's usually bad shit talking unless it's a major Hollywood film, which obviously we don't have $200 million. And so your film is instantly hated on by not having video stores. In a video store, you don't walk in and see 1 star. You see the display, you see the artwork, you see whatever critical acclaim it did get that was good. You make a choice if you want to watch it, you take it home, and then you watch it, and if you don't like it, you tell somebody or whatever, but you don't go online and taint. Basically, these days, independent films are all tainted by being online, is my opinion. And what happened with Porn Star Killer 2 is that people were instantly talking shit that wasn't even accurate. They were all saying, you title a movie Amateur Porn Star Killer and you don't even have nudity. And the movie had full-blown sex, full-blown explicit nudity for a good 20 minutes straight, more than any movie that had been released that I know of in that many chain stores. And unfortunately, what happened is I let that affect the way I made movies, which really started affecting me, because I was like, you're going to talk shit and say a movie doesn't have something and put that all over and kind of taint the movie's name, like this movie doesn't deliver what it says, blah, 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 even though it does, but you turned it off 10 minutes in because that's your attention span of these kind of people. So when I made part 3, I changed the way I made movies because of how it's getting ripped off. So I decided to put all the sex in the beginning. What that did is that went to our the people who manufactured the DVDs, which was a major place, Sony, and they saw that right off the bat, because what happened is they probably hadn't caught it in part 2 because it was down the line. So in part 3, it opens with all this explicit stuff. That got us banned from my, that got my distributor banned from the DVD manufacturer, which then put me kind of like, I would say on a blacklist with the distributor, you know, their distributor E1. So then they had to get a new DVD manufacturer. So that was my first issue. Fortunately, the Porn Star Killer 3 still got into video stores, and then it was literally like a year later when video stores just fucking crashed and all started going out of business. The film I made after that, which was Warning Pedophile Released, I was still doing the same thing where I took a very serious story about this 12-year-old girl who basically becomes a victim of the system, and the system, the justice system, thinks it's looking after her when really it basically is the one who completely fucks her up. But I wanted it to title something like, you know, you see a sex offender get released, and you see a flyer and it says warning pedophile released, and it's kind of like in your face, warning, all these exclamation marks. That's exactly how I titled the film, thinking that that would be kind of like real life, but also get the attention by being, you know, kind of like out there with its title. Unfortunately, that really got me into a lot of trouble. What happened, first of all, is I had Joanna Angel, a real porn star, who was in one of the scenes in the film. And so when the film came out theatrically, her publicist actually, I can't remember exactly what Joanna had said, but her publicist was like, I will have nothing to do with this film. I'm not going to help you promote this film at all, even though that's her publicist that she pays to promote her films. Her publicist would have nothing to do with it because apparently you can't use the word pedophile in anything related to the porn world, even though it wasn't a pornographic film, it had a porn star in it. So that was the first problem. The second problem was the porn star killer movies had done extremely well on sites, on certain websites like Amazon, but like DVD Empire, TLA Video, and stuff like that. Any site like TLA Video and DVD Empire, which also carried adult films, like they both have their adult film section as well as carrying mainstream Hollywood films and all that. Any website, because of the whole porn can't be associated with pedophile thing, any site that carried adult films instantly was, blacklisted the warning pedophile film and anything I'd ever done. So like all the porn star killer stuff, even though those were some of their hottest sellers, the first film topped one of the Transformers films when it came out. That didn't matter. All my shit was gone. I was not allowed basically to be having any association with these websites anymore, which were like, I think, God, like at least a third of our sales came through these two websites, mainly through TLA Video. A ton of sales came through that. I couldn't even be associated with that site anymore, even though they loved the movie, because their credit card companies were cracking down. And this is when everything started changing. You couldn't have rape in movies or in independent movies, or you couldn't have rape associated with violence, or you couldn't have nudity associated with violence. Like all these laws these credit card companies basically were making up for these companies. And then after that, the movie didn't end up selling as well because it wasn't allowed in a lot of places. So that was like my first actual, I would say, bomb, and it was more artsy than the distributor thought it would be, because I think was thinking it would be more like the porn star killer movies, where it was very, kind of POV, but this was more like an art house film. It wasn't POV. So then, actually, I think that's when everything kind of changed, because then video stores started crashing. It was really hard after that. I mean, because like websites didn't want my films anymore. And then, oh no, this is what happened. So right when Pedophile was coming out, I had announced about 6 months earlier I wanted to do a film on human trafficking, because I really thought that was a big issue. And I had announced it on one like minor horror website. And again, I was still thinking about exploitative titles, but I didn't know what I wanted to make the film on yet. And then when Pedophile came out, this girl got rescued who had been missing for like 28 years. She had been kidnapped when she was like 11. Now she was like, 18 years. She had been missing, and everyone assumed she was dead long ago. And then it turned out she was actually alive and had like 2 kids with the guy who kidnapped her and was living in her backyard. And they actually made a big Academy Award winning film, or nominated film, called Room, which I think was partially inspired by that. But I saw that story and instantly thought, okay, that's what I can make a human trafficking movie on, because it all took place in a backyard pretty much. I can do this with no money. I'll just come up with my own story. I'll change the names, but it will be what she went through as far as the Stockholm Syndrome, and it'll still touch on the trafficking issue. It's just something I can do with like $2,000, because it all takes place in the backyard. So what I did is I announced to a tiny little French horror website that I was going to be making this film, and I told them that I got the idea from this JC the Guard thing. And what happened is, I think from that, somehow ABC heard about this, and ABC Sacramento, up by where it happened. So this reporter, called me up, wanted to do a story on it, and I wasn't thinking. I just thought, oh yeah, cool. Like, I've never had ABC contact me. I'll do this. And the girl was really nice, the reporter, like, oh yeah, I just want to talk to you about it, blah, blah, blah. So then she puts me on the speaker to record me, and her whole tone just totally changes. She just sounds like a fucking cunt out of nowhere, like from all nice and sweet to just a total harsh feminist, like just chewing at me, like, how could you do something like this? And I could hear her even exaggerating. It was ridiculous. And I had never done an interview. I'm really bad at I'd never done any like a big interview, and or I think like a recorded interview. And I'm really bad at lots of times talking to people too, especially when I'm caught off guard. So I was stuttering a lot, and we talked for an hour, so she got a lot of stuff, but I was stuttering a lot. When she went to use the interview, she used footage of her. They had recorded her talking to the phone, which is me, yelling at me like this with both of her hands, which I feel was like a form of belittling me because she's yelling at this little tiny phone, you know, as if that's me. And then they showed a picture of me too. They used a picture. I don't even smoke. They showed a picture of me posing like a mug shot with a cigarette in my mouth, which was from a movie where I'm playing Charles Starkweather, who was a mass spree killer, who was had a fantasy life of being like James Dean. So I was posing as Starkweather, a killer who was posing as James Dean because I was playing a part in a movie. So first off, they use this picture of me with a cigarette. Like, I'm looking like a douchebag, as if that's who I really am. So like they're cutting from the girl down talking to me on the phone to this douchebag, you know, picture of me, you know. And then on top of that, I talked to her for an hour. She only used 2 quotes. One is her yelling at me, so why would you do this, and why would you do that, and blah, 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 and are you trying to do this? And my reaction was, no, 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 no. That's all she used for my reaction. And then one other thing is when she was like, don't you think that it would be exploitive or this or that? And I specifically said, well, I'm trying to make sure I can figure out a way to do it so it's not exploitive. Those are the only 2 lines that they used. And then what they did is they put in the article, low-budget horror filmmaker, which it's not too bad, but instantly, you know, they were using the word horror, which I had never thought of the porn star killer movies as horror films. I thought of them as just slices of life of a serial killer's diary, and it was all more about there was no blood in the movies at all. It was much more psychological. It was just titled exploitatively, just because it helped sell these zero-budget films. But now I'm getting labeled, you know, the horror filmmaker thing, and then I felt like I was getting belittled instantly by having to call it low budget instead of independent. But that wasn't the bad part. The bad part was then Huffington Post, the fuckers at Huffington Post, they took that press release, because then that went out to Associated Press, so now everybody all around the world had it. But the Huffington Post was the first ones that I recall that took that article where it says low-budget horror filmmaker, and they changed it to pornographer. That's the headline. That's the headline to get attention. Pornographer making J.C. DeGard porn movie. Or no, pornographer making J.C. DeGard movie. And then that got taken from porno maker making J.C. DeGard porn. So then within a matter of hours, it was labeled that what I was doing was trying to make a serious film about trafficking. I didn't even know if I was going to have any nudity at all in the movie, let alone fucking, like, I was not going to put anything explicit in this movie. So it went from a non-explicit, serious movie about trafficking where I got the idea from J.C. DeGard to J.C. DeGard porn being made. So that's the mainstream media for you, because then what happened is then NBC took the adult porn thing, and then CNN, who I thought were legit at the time, you know, little did I know, along with Fox, who I knew was not, you know, legit, and then Joe Behar from The View, which I thought was legit. I didn't watch it, which obviously now that I've watched it here and there, it's fucking bullshit. But I thought The View being women, I thought they would be excited to hear that what they heard in the media wasn't true, that I was actually trying to make a movie that really honestly showed what it was like for a woman like this, and not specifically JC, but just somebody in her shoes. And what actually happened, and when I talked to the producer from The View, or from Joe Behar's show, she actually said, I'm really sorry about how shit on you got already by the media, but now they're not going to want you on the show because they won't be able to shit talk you. That was the exact words she said. They don't want you on the show now because they won't be able to shit talk you. So they didn't give one shit that the movie was going to help expose, you know, like sex trafficking in America. They just wanted to talk shit about somebody, let alone somebody who's been trying their whole life to make movies, and I haven't gotten a dime for it, and they wanted to actually try and drop me lower than I already am. So that's the mainstream media, and that's where I really, really, as if I didn't have enough trouble with my last film getting me banned everywhere, it was everywhere. It was on the front of the Globe, the tabloids, it was in Korean newspapers, Irish newspapers, the fucking, you know, NBC, the San Francisco Chronicle, who are the only ones, actually. I sent out trailers after that to show the kind of movie I was trying to make, and I got this girl who ended up being one of YouTube's, we'll talk about fucking YouTube in a minute, ended up being one of YouTube's biggest money makers or biggest stars. This was before she ever did YouTube, like a week before. I actually got her for the trailers to show exactly what kind of movie I'm trying to make, that it's all statistically based, like on human trafficking, sex trafficking, like the ages, like what happens, and that it wasn't at all, we were changing the names, and we came up with the name we were going to use, totally different from JC's name, and we came up with a totally different, the girl was a totally different character, she just ends up in the same situation. And so I sent that out personally to every single news place that had done this article, which was like, I found hundreds. It took me like a week to send everything out. San Francisco Chronicle was the only person in the whole world who printed a retraction. They did it like 2 weeks later. They didn't do it as a story. They just added it as a note to the story from like weeks earlier. And then they didn't even print the retraction as it was. They said, Shane Ryan claimed the media attacked him about this article, and then he sent a bunch of trailers to his films. Then he sent trailers to the film that we're talking shit about, and then they posted the trailer. No, they made it out like I just sent them trailers to my random other movies. And that was the only retraction in the whole world that we got for that. So basically, after this point, when I saw like how the media works, it was worse than that. There was a talk show that brought me on that like was a major talk show, radio talk show, and I can't even get into that. It was so bad. If I was suicidal, I would have killed myself. That's how bad it was with my first experience in the mainstream media. So after that, I really felt like nothing I would ever make would ever get seen, because I'd been blacklisted or banned or whatever. What happened after that is, at the same time now, this girl, Alyssa Bustamante, who was 15, had just been accused of murdering her 9-year-old neighbor. And what had happened is she was all over the media on Nancy Grace. I don't even like saying that lady's name. She's fucking disgusting. But Nancy Grace reminded me of everything. What Nancy Grace was doing to Alyssa, what she was saying about her, reminded me of everything that I had just gone through, where, yeah, this girl, may have killed somebody, but I thought we had, innocent until proven guilty. Like, she literally had just turned herself in, and she was, not to mention, she was 15. It wasn't like, I don't think anyone's face, when they're a suspect, should be put in the media, because the second you have a suspect, okay, it's like, let's put so-and-so in the media. This, John Doe, suspected in, raping, 5 3-year-old girls and killed them. What if that's not him? Oh, wait, shit, that's not him. Okay, well, anyways, now that he's completely fucked for life, because people are going to remember that, not remember that he didn't do it. We have the real killer, but they don't even give attention to the fact that they fucked up and had... you see what I'm saying? That's what the media does. They don't give one shit that they just ruined somebody's life, and this guy maybe had nothing to do with it. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that was my thought on watching Alyssa. What if this girl didn't even do it? You just got this information, and already you're showing her picture all over the world, and instantly saying that she, basically needs to be burned at the stake. It was a witch hunt, basically, which is what I felt like I had gone through with the JC DeGard thing. So the other thing is that it was brought up that she was a self-abuser, and you could see all the scars all over her arms. And having dealt with self-abuse, for most of my life, I knew that it was very unlikely that a self-abuser was a murderer. A self-abuser can maybe lash out and kill somebody in the heat of the moment, but they said that she had planned this, and like it was very, very coordinated. You're not going to be a self-abuser and also a very, very coordinated, murderer. You're going to be one or the other. Or if you're a self-abuser, like I said, you're going to lash out. But what they were trying to say is that she had no control over herself, but she had a very controlled way of detailing this murder and knowing exactly how to get away with it. A person like that's going to be too emotional. She's going to be one or the other, a stone-cold calculated killer, or a fucking, self-abusing somebody who's really depressed, and if she were to hurt somebody, it would be in the heat of the moment. It won't be cold and calculated. So nothing that I saw basically added up. And then you had Nancy Grace, who was talking shit about the girl. She had just been arrested after she supposedly turned herself in, which I think could have been coercion, because I dealt with that when I was about that age by police, where they try to coerce you, they arrest you, and they try to coerce you into admitting that you did something terrible that you didn't. So I'd experienced all this stuff that she had gone through. So she had tried to kill herself as soon as she was arrested, and she didn't have any weapons on her when she was in her cell, so she tried to literally rip open her arms with her fingernails. To me, that didn't sound like somebody who was a cold, calculated murderer. That sounded like somebody who was a self-abuser and maybe didn't do this and didn't know why she was locked up, or if she did it, it wasn't cold and calculated like they thought. It just, there was more, basically, no matter what, whether she was a killer or innocent or helping somebody, else cover for somebody, they didn't have the full story. They immediately put her face, a child, all over the world for everyone to hate and see, for everyone to want to send death threats to. And that's what I had just gone through. I was getting like death threats every few seconds. You should die, you scum, I'll fucking do it for you, I'll kill you, all this other shit. So I thought, for one, I thought maybe this girl didn't do it. And for two, I just saw the way the media was making her out to be and how everybody was hating on her. And by this point, all the experiences I had with being hated on or blacklisted or banned or whatever the hell, was going on. I don't know what exactly word you want to use for that. I decided to drop everything about this sex trafficking movie and focus on making a movie about Alyssa. And then when I did that, that took a year to get that done. And then for the first year after that I was promoting it, I was so afraid that my name would instantly cause people to relate to these other stories that I actually tried to use completely, just a random alias of something I made up. And then what happened with that is, for some reason, it seemed like that was harder. It seems like some reviewers were pointing out stuff like they knew I was using a fake name, and some people even pointed out, I think, who I was. I can't remember how that happened, but I realized the fake name was not going to work. And then I was talking to some actor, too, who was in, his 40s. I don't know, he'd been acting for, 20 years, and he had talked about how he had been in so many bad movies, he had kept trying to change his name. And then he said, ultimately, though, changing his name never seemed like it worked. He said what he should have done is, it's like he had to keep restarting, and he didn't get anywhere. He said, I've never changed my name. He told me I would just not change my name, just own up to it, and just just be you, own up to it, and just do as much as you can, or do as best as you can. And so I decided to then put my name back on the film, and as soon as I did, it seemed like it actually started taking off better for me, and I finally got this film distributed and released. But as far as experiences I've had since then, for one, by the time the movie finally came out, because we shot it in the beginning of 2010, by the time it finally came out, it was the end of 2014, video stores were pretty much not existent anymore. And I mean, there's still some, but definitely in California it seems harder. It seems like there was more chains back east for some reason. But My Name is A by Anonymous was the title, but they thought, the distributor specifically said, the internet crowd is fucking stupid. They're going to read that title and they're going to be like, huh? And they're not going to watch it. So they decided to title it, just for the internet, Alyssa, Portrait of a Teen Killer. For one, they said, too, if things are going to be listed alphabetical, people are too lazy to get past A, B, or C. And people are too lazy to read a title that's not in your face. So that's part of the problem we're facing now with the internet generation. So it kind of brings back to the amateur portrait killer thing. I now wanted to title something where it was not exploitative. My Name is A by Anonymous, back to the kind of original stuff I was doing, where it was more poetic sounding and didn't have an exploitative sound to it. And then it got changed to basically sounding like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer knockoff, which some people, of course, try to say I ripped off the name, even though that wasn't my title. So that's now what happened back to being, I don't want to say banned, but not getting your film told the way you want. I agreed to it because I thought it was a fine title and I know it would get attention, and it did. But we're now back to that problem. With the title, My Name is A by Anonymous, people watched the whole movie, they got the DVD, they gave an honest review, they usually gave a long review, they obviously fucking watched it, and it averaged basically love or hate, between 1 to 5 stars. It had a ton of 4 or 5 stars, and it had some 1 or 2. So in the end, it averaged around a 3-star rating, which is fine for a $300 movie shot in 4 days. That's fine for me. But as Alyssa, Portrait of a Teen Killer, it averages under 1.5 stars, because under that title, it's only getting watched on the internet, and on the internet, even most people reviewing it say they watch 30 seconds and turn it off, and then yet they still go rate it 1 star, they taint it with 1 star, and in a way, I think, I don't know, that's not getting banned, but that's just the whole way that everything is working is just really, it's as bad as getting banned. It'd be better to get banned and then to have people have to look for your movie than have this bullshit, with your fucking 1 star, your film not getting portrayed the way you want, all because people these days have a fucking short attention span and they rip you off, and that's what the short attention span rip-offers want to see. So in my mind, that's as bad as getting banned. But going back to Amazon Prime, that is actually the one film that I have that was allowed on Amazon Prime. To get Amateur Porn Star Killer 1 and 2 on there, the distributor took out, 45 minutes of the first 2 films combined, an average of 20-something minutes per movie of a 70-minute movie, at almost a third. That's not even the fucking movie anymore. That's like, why don't you just show them a trailer? And that was the only way that they could actually get those movies onto Amazon, versus, video stores, no issue. All 3 of them were in a video store. Even the third one, which had explicit sex right from the beginning, was in the video store. But now you can't show a fucking tit with the internet. Like Amazon Prime, Hulu, iTunes, like all these places seem to, YouTube, fucking YouTube especially, my trailers for the Abducted Girl movie, even though it's a fucking 11-year-old talking about statistics of human trafficking, that got a 7-year-old trailer, a 7-year-old account booted. And then I had one for My Name is A, which was a PSA about self-harm. I had a 13-year-old YouTube account. The entire account was gone. No warning, just because of that video. It was about self-harm, and it was about how people could actually help people self-harm by like listening to them, and instead of judging them, just listen to them, give them a hug, just tell them you're here for them. Don't fucking, like talk shit about them having scars on their arm, or, oh my god, you need help, or this or that. Just basically be there for somebody. The whole point of the movie was that people need to hug people more. That's my opinion. I think if people hugged more, like in France, everyone kisses each other on the cheeks, hello and goodbye, and other, a lot of people who are very close with their friends or hug everybody, versus Americans are so, oh my god, don't touch me, or I don't know, like they're so, in my opinion, if people just have more physical contact, it probably would be a lot better for people who self-abuse, just to have more physical contact, with your friends, or not be so, not even hugging, just, I know what I'm trying to say, this is not coming out. I just think people were just more, didn't put themselves in such a bubble where they're just there for their family or friends more, and were just more comforting. I think there would be less issues with like depression and self-abuse, and that was the point of the video. And that video got a 13-year-old YouTube account completely banned, 13 years of uploading. And then the other PSAs were about human trafficking and the issues and what to watch out for, and that got a 7-year-old YouTube account that I had deleted, even though it had YouTube. Leah Marie Johnson became one of YouTube's biggest stars, was the girl in the video doing like basically like the spokeswoman or spokesgirl for the PSAs. So that's where I've had, and I don't even know what the fuck that's about. Why the fuck would you delete PSAs? They're supposed to help people, and not only delete the PSA but the whole channel. So that's the issue I've had with YouTube. And then the issue with Amazon Prime, maybe it sounds contradicting, but obviously I'm making movies, or PSAs about trafficking, but then I'm making something like Porn Star Killer, which is almost seems like the exact opposite. But I just believe in, when you're making a movie, just make the movie the way that it would happen, and that's my point of view. You can argue with it or not, but so on one end I'm getting my PSAs getting me deleted from YouTube, and on the other end I'm getting my actual movies like Porn Star Killer or whatever chopped to shit to get on Amazon Prime. And then iTunes wouldn't allow stuff because of nudity. And then we even had an action film I co-produced that Amazon Prime and like YouTube Play or whatever, how you watch movies on YouTube now, or Google Play, all this shit. They're just deleting movies because they have a tit, like the way you would in a typical 90s action film. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of going in circles. There's like so much, but that's the issue. That's what I've had being banned is video stores were great. People watched your fucking movie when they're in video stores. You couldn't write your fucking 1-star shitty 30-second review of whatever that you didn't watch on the video. Your film got in the video stores. You actually got some money. I haven't made a single cent with any of the Amazon Prime stuff, with any of the fucking video digital shit. I haven't made 1 penny. My shit gets deleted constantly. It gets tainted with the 1 star by all the fuckers who watch 30 seconds, and then that's it, and then they think they know the whole movie. You get ripped off easier. You get... that's my experience. That when we had video stores, when we had indie movie theaters, because now independent movie theaters are getting run out. Back in the 70s, 80s, you had a lot of these theaters, people just watch independent films or classics all day, and those are all going out of business. Everything's going to the internet, and the internet isn't allowing shit for some reason. They're banning any kind of nudity, any kind of sex with violence, any kind of statement, any kind of fucking opinion. So I don't know if that's, if my stuff is getting banned because of being too graphic, or if it's just everything is going to eventually be like this. I think that's the bottom line, is like I've had a lot of... the stuff that got me a lot of free press is now all the same shit that's getting me banned. And the stuff that's now getting me banned is stuff that I think actually isn't even graphic. It's just more of an opinion or a statement. And so I think what it's leading to is that we're all going to be banned pretty soon, because nobody's going to be allowed to have an opinion or a statement. It's not going to be you're banned because of this nudity, which shouldn't even be an issue there. It's going to be you're banned because we don't like what you have to say. And that's actually the way that I think it's going. And obviously it's about what you have to say. We don't want to hear what right now we don't want to hear what you independents have to say, because if you notice, mainstream indie films that have real sex are still on there. If they have a known actor, if they have a known director, Lars von Trier, Gaspar Noé, whatever, you can find that on Netflix. You can find that on fucking Amazon Prime. Irreversible's on Amazon Prime. The 10-minute ass raping scene, that's totally fine for some reason, even though you see like a dick and an ass and all that, that's fine. So it's obviously not, even right now, going back to it, right now it's not even nudity. They just don't want that content if you're not known. So we don't want to hear what you have to say, and we're going to pick things like nudity or rape. That's why you're banned. But that's not really why we're banned, because you're not banning these fucking mainstream movies or these mainstream indies with all the festival play.